Good day, everyone. Our topic for today is all about minimalism 1960s onwards. What is minimalism? Minimalism is an extreme form of abstract art developed in the USA in the 1960s and typified by artworks composed of simple geometric shapes based on the square and the rectangle. It is also known as ABC art. Minimalism describes movements in various forms of art and design, especially visual art and music, where the work is stripped down to its most fundamental form. It is identified with developments in post-World War II Western art, most strongly with American visual arts in the late 1960s and early 1970s. For the introduction to minimalism, minimalism started in 1960s in US. It was the reaction to abstract impressionism. The forms are abstract, clean, simple, and are machine-made. Described in art, design, and music, influenced by Japanese traditional design and architecture. For the features of minimalism, it has geometric repetition, often cubic forms purged of much metaphor, equality of parts, neutral surfaces, solid planes of color, normally precise and hard-edged. We must know about the significance feature of minimalism. It is reducing the work to the smallest number of colors, values, shapes, lines, and textures, also the simplest form. No distractions of composition and theme. Color is not used to express mood or feelings. Here are the list of main minimalist artists: Donald Judd, Agnes Martin, Frank Stella, and Robert Morris. Donald Judd. Donald Judd is an American sculptor, painter, and writer. Donald Judd is first artist to have a one-man exhibition in 1957. In 1960 to 1962, he went from painting to sculpting, became leading exponent of minimalism. Donald Judd believed that art should not represent anything, that it should unequivocally stand on its own and simply existence. This picture shows about the work of Donald Judd. It is called Stuck Without Title in 1969. Much of his work is of simple cubes or other geometric units that stand on the floor or hanging from the wall.
Agnes Martin. She is a Canadian-born American abstract painter and is considered a forerunner of minimalist art. Her work has been defined as an essay in discretion on inwardness and silence because her work shied away from intellectualism, favoring the personal and spiritual. So Agnes Martin preferred to be classified as an abstract expressionist because her works added spiritual dimension, which became more and more dominant after 1967. So here's one of her famous works, which is the Praise 1972 and the Spotlight 1963. Frank Stella is a significant figure in minimalism and post-painterly abstraction. He is one of the most well-regarded post-war American painters. So many of his works are created by simply using the path of the brushstroke, very often using common house paint. So he preferred somewhat flatter surfaces. Soon enough, Stella began painting in such a way as to emphasize identification of the objects in his paintings as the objects themselves, not just an expression of those objects. In other words, his work was readily identifiable as what it was supposed to represent. So, here are some of his famous artworks: the Sunset Beach sketch in 1967 and the Horan 2 1967. Carl Andre. He is an American minimalist artist recognized both for his ordered linear format and grid format sculptures. But before Carl Andre moved to sculpture, he was working with literature and philosophy. Some of his works under literature and philosophy are the Essay on Sculpture, Map of Poetry, and the Poem. And when he moved to sculpture, he worked with three types of minimalist sculpture in his career. These are the sculpture as form, sculpture as structure, and sculpture as place. The sculpture as form are pieces usually consisted of wooden blocks. It stands vertically and always comprised of geometric shapes, and it has no complex shapes. While the sculpture as structure are stacked units, and it has more complex shapes and usually stand vertical. And the last one is a sculpture as place. It has less rigid characteristics than the other types of sculpture. Pieces spread across the ground, there are no definite size, shape, or material used. The piece of art defines the space that it occupies. The picture shows the different types of sculpture. And here are some of Carl Andre's famous works, the equivalent 8 1966 and the Sulcos 1980.